What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we got Chris of Painted Dolls, as well as Autopsy, Death, Burnt Offering. Am I missing anything? Doomed?
Oh boy, there's violation wound, abscess, all sorts of things.
Yeah, you have a very impressive resume, I must say.
Oh, thanks. Right on. Yeah, I'm not good at anything else, so I try to keep busy with that stuff.
Awesome. That's the best thing to do, especially at this time.
Yeah, I gotta attempt to remain sane. So music comes in handy in that department a lot of the time.
Definitely. But you have the new album, How to Draw Fire by Painted Doll, coming out in approximately, 8 hours from when we're talking?
It comes, what is it, Thursday? Yeah, it comes out tomorrow. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, very excited for everybody else to hear it. This record is awesome. Do you just want to talk about,
thanks.
how the making of this record was? Really, how did How to Draw Fire come to be? Was there a preconceived idea? How did the songwriting exactly work out for this?
Oh, we did it exactly the same way we did the first album, because Dave living over in New York and me living over here, we can't get together and just practice whenever we want, or write together in the same room or anything like that. So what we did last time is the same this time. We would just send each other cell phone recordings or emails or whatever of riffs or full songs, and just kind of memorize each other's stuff. That was kind of the key, is just doing the homework at home, just listen, make notes, whatever. So on the few occasions we got to get together and practice, which was always over here, we had to know what we were doing, because we'd get maybe a 3-hour block of time to rehearse. And so there was no time to just kind of stare at the walls and be like, all right, what's the next part of the song do, or how does it start, or anything like that. So we did it like that. Dave would come over here to do a comedy gig, or a TV taping, or whatever brought him over here, and I would get together with him, and we'd just crank out a couple practices. I'm pretty sure we did 4 practices this time, just like the last one, get 3 songs or so down each rehearsal, and then we booked studio time for New Jersey last year. So once the studio time's booked, you gotta get your shit together. There's no no backing out or safety net. You gotta be prepared when you get there. So that's pretty much how it came together.
Awesome. Because one thing I was curious about is being that, Dave has been also working with Witch Taint at the time. Was there kind of maybe a preconceived idea on how you wanted this to sound? Did you have different ideas and different experiences for how you wanted How to Draw Fire to sound like? Or was there kind of a lot of, go with the flow and kind of improvise a little bit?
Really no improvisation. Everything was pretty well thought out and calculated ahead. I mean, we both have the same vision for the band, what it should sound like, which is the cool thing, is we never really talked about what we were going to sound like when we first formed the idea of jamming together. We'd already been talking about bands that we like, whether it was the Kinks or obscure psychedelic stuff from the 70s and 60s, or obscure hard rock, or just stuff like that. And so just out of those discussions, when we started talking about making some music, kind of just both felt like that's something we wanted to do. But I think our writing styles are pretty different, but the songs blend together good. At least I think so. So it's cool. It's never been a struggle. What's the direction of the band? What are we supposed to do or sound like? We just kind of instinctively knew. And so then it's just a matter of writing enough songs to pick the best ones for the album, which we did, but there was a few that didn't make it on there because we can't do them all. Mm-hmm. So just kind of cherry pick the most suitable ones, and next thing you know, you got an album to do.
Yeah. You ever worry that the songs you leave out of the album are going to be a B-side one day and just be the biggest hit you ever made?
No, if they're meant to be on a record, it'll happen. The one Blue Postcards, our newest lyric video, that was among the very first batch of songs when we first started talking about the band, and it finally it just didn't. I don't know why, but there was just other songs that we put on the first record instead, and then it was time for this one to come around, and it made the cut. So if there's one that didn't make it on the second album, it could find its way onto the third or fourth album or whatever. It's just whenever it's leaping out to be recorded.
When forming Painted Doll, was maybe kind of like the idea to combine, what Dave was doing with Valley Lodge and Witch Taint to what you've done with Autopsy and Death and Violation Wound and stuff? Or did you guys kind of want to like step into uncharted territory that you never really experimented with before?
Oh yeah, just something different for sure. I mean, because there's no point in doing a band that sounds just like another one that you're doing. I'm sure Dave wouldn't want to do, Valley Lodge Chapter 2 or something like that. He's already got Valley Lodge, and clearly nothing in Painted Doll sounds like Autopsy or any of that stuff. So just something new and something that we both like after talking about music that we like and liked enough to start playing something like that, or our own weird versions.
Yeah.
But it kind of leaves room to do different things too within the realm of the psychedelic rock thing. We can do different tempos and different moods and different feelings and songs and stuff like that. So not every song, I don't think any two songs sounds the same, so that keeps it cool too. You can do all sorts of fun stuff.
I gotta say, it feels very strange seeing Dave in a band photo shoot without corpse paint on. I at first didn't recognize him. Had I not read the description of the band, I wouldn't have noticed it was him.
Oh yeah, it's him for sure. Yeah, it's real.
Yeah, I spoke with him earlier, back when the pandemic first started, and man, working with him, I mean, it's just got to make the studio and songwriting environment, which is often very tense for a lot of people, but working with a guy as humorous as that, it's got to make songwriting incredibly fun.
Oh yeah, we have a good time. I got to know him before we talked about forming a band. Actually, I knew of him from the. You might remember that show at midnight that used to be on Comedy Central.
Yeah.
So he used to be on there frequently, and my wife would watch the show, and he was always one of the ones that was like one of our favorites. He'd get excited, be like, "Oh, Dave's on this episode, it's gonna be great." So little did I know that we were gonna not only end up meeting and becoming friends, but forming a band, and 2 albums later we're talking about it. But no, he's just a cool dude, super chill, and he's a hilarious guy, but he's not always trying to be hilarious, like on a one-on-one level. He's like just cool dude, but also makes you laugh too.
Yeah, I mean, I'll never forget first discovering him. I'm still kind of new to the table with everything he's done, but seeing him on the Metal Grasshopper with Phil Anselmo, and I was just like dying the whole time.
Oh yeah, I know those are a lot of fun. Yeah, he's done a lot of good stuff.
Definitely, and as well as you have. And I've noticed that, like, with this particular album too, like, I feel like, this album, there is, like, every song kind of has, like, its own vibe, going from Sun in the Sea to, Blue Postcards to Cheap Kicks or any of those particular tracks. Like, so it's fair to say that there, even though, like, you knew what you were doing when writing, it didn't seem like that there was really anything holding you back from trying something new with Painted Dolls as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just whatever mood you're in, you could be thinking about anything from the Urges from Ireland to Johnny Thunders to whatever, and get some weird inspiration and be like, I can make a Painted Doll song out of that, but make it my own version or whatever, or just might not be thinking about anything at all and just go, oh, whoa, this riff's pretty cool. Where'd this come from? Better try and mess with this one and see what comes from it. But yeah, we've got lots of different possibilities that we can throw into there.
Yeah, especially I've noticed on how much this varies in song lengths, because Dollhouse Rock is like less than 2 minutes, but then Sun in the Sea is like over 5 minutes, and then you have like Slow Armageddon that's 3 minutes. It almost, like, how long do you have to work on something before you realize that it's done?
You just kind of, like any other band, writing a song, you just kind of know it's done. I mean, like Dollhouse Rock is just a little fast punk rocker. If it kept going on for 4 minutes, it would get old. But you'd be like, all right, I get it. You can stop. That's how I feel about it. Like, we get in there, we got the point across with that one. it's just a little kind of punk rock song, and then it's over. Like Sun in the Sea definitely is more of a journey. There's different parts and different, moods and things like that in there. And that's one you wouldn't want to do in a minute and a half. You don't want to kind of let it breathe and do what it's going to do. So just depending on the song, you kind of have to just know. You don't want it to overstay its welcome. That's the main thing.
Definitely.
Like nothing worse than hearing a song you're like, okay, this is the chorus for the 8th time. I get it.
Well, I gotta say, being that you mentioned it, you're taking a lot of inspiration also from psychedelic rock. I'm beyond shocked that the songs aren't like 27 and a half minutes long.
Oh yeah, maybe next time or something. But we're not like a jam band either, or like a space out band where we just get into, like a riff going and sounds over it and stuff like that. And maybe someday we'll want to do that. But yeah, it's just kind of cool rock songs with a trippy edge or hard rock edge or punk edge at times or whatever. Just keep it interesting. That's just as long as it's not boring.
Definitely.
Hopefully it's not.
Definitely. I mean, boring is the worst thing you could do, and there are boring songs that are 30 seconds, and there are boring songs that are an hour long. A boring song is a boring song.
Yeah. What you don't want to do is take the needle off the record or hit the stop button on whatever you listen to things on before it's over. I can't do it. I tried and I have to stop. It should never feel like an endurance test.
Yeah, exactly, an endurance test. Yeah, that's the best insult you could ever give an album.
Well, I passed the test.
There you go. Now, being such a prolific artist between, Painted Dolls and Autopsy and Death and all these other projects, is there maybe a usual method behind the madness that applies to everything, or are you almost in like a different headspace depending on the projects that you're working with?
Anything I do, I just think about that at that point in time. If I'm working on Painted Doll music, I'm thinking about that and not a different band or whichever band you're talking about. I just, each one is its own little world, which is cool. And they don't really bleed over into one another. So it's kind of easy in that way. Just, you got to get your head into the right compartment and then just kind of work on that. And then when it's time to pop out of the compartment, you'll know, like, okay, done that one enough. And I just think about this thing or whatever. But I'm good at separating things from each other musically, I guess.
Yeah, but I think it goes without saying that experimenting with another project, it teaches you new things and maybe.
Oh yeah.
And it's got to help you bring some ideas to other projects as well, right?
I don't know. I hadn't really thought about that, but it's definitely. I enjoy stretching my boundaries and just feel like, I never knew I could do that. This is cool. I mean, one of the misconceptions I had with Painted Doll that surprised me was it's not as easy as I thought it would be musically or drumming or anything. Like there's some things that sound so simple, but they were so simple they were hard. Like it takes a lot of discipline at times. I have to I was told many times, you're playing too fast, slow down. It's a different kind of discipline than like Autopsy drumming is just balls out, just plays, fast and whatever, rolls all over the place and all that kind of stuff. And I have to kind of reel that in with Painted Doll. It was harder than I thought, but in a good way. It kind of gave me some discipline that I didn't think I would ever need.
Yeah.
And just kind of like, something different to do that I would like to hear as a music fan, and not even just like, look what I can do, but like, this is what I want to listen to in my car when I'm driving somewhere. That's what I like, is making a record that I would want to listen to for myself, even if everyone else hated it.
Yeah, I mean, there shouldn't be any other reason behind it. I mean, I think it's fair to say that every musician starts off as a music fan first, so.
Oh yeah, exactly. We're not doing it to be rich and famous or something like that, for sure. So you gotta just love what you're doing, and other people end up liking it, and that's bonus material. And if not, even if I knew anything I've done, if everyone hated it but me, I would still do it just because I like it.
Yeah. Well, even the people who do it to be rich and famous, I mean, even they started off at one point like listening to an album that they resonated with, and it inspired them to pick up an instrument. So, I
Oh
think,
yeah, there's got to be a reason for it, you
yeah,
know.
it's not like anybody's starting a band because they think it's an investment.
Yeah. I mean, if so, you're probably gonna find something else to do pretty quickly.
Yeah. I wouldn't recommend bringing that to the stock market.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you might be in for a surprise.
Yeah. Or well, who knows? I mean, miracles have happened in this world, and I've heard.
Yeah. The good and bad ones.
So, Wall Street guys, invest in painted dolls.
Oh, please, yeah.
Now, when it comes to like getting inspired to write, moving like in the more artistic portion of this interview, but like when it comes to getting inspired to write, do like ideas sometimes just come out of nowhere, or is there maybe like some research involved, or you kind of need to be in a certain place in order for like the ideas to flow through?
I've had both things happen. I think the least successful thing I do is sit down and try and write, like when I don't have an idea or I'm not in the mood to pick up a guitar or something, but I do it anyways, then you're kind of like forcing it, and then I don't usually have much luck, but sometimes I'll just be, driving or just sitting around and I'll get a riff idea in my head for some reason, like, oh, that could be cool, I better go capture it before it floats away. Or sometimes, I'll just be kind of in the house doing whatever, I'll see the guitar sitting there, and go, oh, I think something might happen, I better go pick that up, and then something cool will happen. But yeah, the hardest thing to do is sit down and go, I'm going to write a song. That doesn't work so good for me. I have to feel the pull,
Yeah. Well, have you ever like been like had that creative urge to like create something like a song, but like just nothing comes out? Like you feel creative,
Oh, yeah.
but you don't know what to create.
Yeah, that happens sometimes too, You think you're onto something, then it just fizzles out. That definitely happens too sometimes. So, yeah, I don't know. You can't force it either way.
Yeah.
It'll either happen or it won't.
Yeah, and sometimes you're working on an album for an hour, days, weeks. If you're Tool, 13 years. So like, I'd imagine like the longer you're working on something, the harder it is to kind of like maintain that spark as well, right?
You mean as far as like going into a recording studio?
Yeah, recording studio, or even just writing it.
Yeah, well, usually, I find what works good is just set a recording date, and then once it's booked in the studio, you shouldn't back out of it, even if you can. It's just, that's a dick move, on the, So, yeah, we usually just book studio time to like, okay, September 25th, we got to be in the studio knowing what we're doing. So then you've got ample time to gather up all the songs you want, pick out the ones that you want to record for sure, know what you're doing, rehearse as much as you can, because, once you get in the studio, time is definitely money, and we're always on like a crazy tight budget, so we can't afford to just, go to studio and play ping pong or something while we contemplate what we want to do. It's like, okay, we got to crank these out, let's try and get all the drums done in the first day or whatever, we got to work fast, so it just means getting all the homework done. But yeah, with that deadline hanging over your head, you're forced to get your shit together.
Yeah, I envy musicians who write an album in the studio. I don't understand how the band doesn't feel pressure from doing that, and I don't understand how the studio doesn't feel pressure from that as well.
Well, I think if you have an unlimited budget, if you're like the Stones or something, and you just go in the studio and just, work on it till it happens, or, whatever, but we can't afford that, I've never been in a band that's been able to afford that financially. It's always like, you have a week to do it, and then it's got to be done. So if it's not done, that means you didn't work hard enough on it and prepare enough. So I've never ever done that, gone in a studio and just be like, okay, let's start writing this thing. I have no idea what that would be like.
That would be like a great because everybody does like these parody videos or these social situations or whatever. That would be like a great like example video. Don't be this guy. Walk into the studio with your guitar. The mixer and the producer are there. Be like, all right, you ready? Be like, yeah, let's write this album. And they're just like,
Oh man, it could be for a musician, it could be the coolest thing in the world or the worst thing in the world. Like, what if you just don't come up with anything? When you're there, that would at least. With a deadline over your head, when you're there, it's like you can't fuck it up. You got to be delivering the goods.
Yeah.
But someday maybe I'll have the opportunity to see what that's like. But I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Well, I mean, people think that pressure is often a negative, but sometimes the pressure could also influence the intensity, especially in aggressive music.
Yeah, I think so. I love everything about being in the studio. I love rolling in the front door with the gear and all the tedious things that would, you think would be boring, and they kind of are, but I love every little tweak that's done and the mix, and I don't know, man, I just really like it a lot. So
I work in a studio. Can you come by and help untangle all the cables, please?
Oh, man, okay, maybe not that, but... I totally lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, I love everything about being in the studio, every little single thing, but it's also about beat the clock. So, there's definitely lots of times I'm just looking up the clock, like, oh, shit, we still got, guitar solos to do or whatever. How are we going to pull it out? Okay, we did it. Cool. Failure's not an option.
Well, there's something to be said about enjoying the studio, because I don't hear that from a lot of artists, believe it or not.
I love it, man. I love it so much, because that's where you can make your weird ideas, happen for the first time, and you get to listen to it back and be like, oh, this crazy ideas were actually good. Here it is, and now I get to listen to it. So it's very magical, I think.
Definitely. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Really enjoyed this discussion, and great to be able to talk about this new album. Congratulations on another great release. Is there just anything that you would like to promote for any of the projects that you're involved with? I know that, thanks to a certain virus that I'm not naming on my outlet, that, shows aren't happening at the moment, but can we maybe be expecting some Painted Doll gigs in the future?
I hope so. I mean, no one knows when that's going to happen. I mean, this year's clearly a wash, so it's just not even a thought. Next year, I don't know, man. I hope something starts getting better. It sure would be nice. I mean, it's, every once in a while I'll be like, oh man, poor us, blah, blah, blah. And well, it's really pretty much every band on planet Earth. None of us are alone in this. We're all kind of just, having to put a lot of things on hold, but I know that the time will come again when we can get back to stuff like that. When? Who knows, man? Who knows? But hopefully soon. In the meantime, there's still the studio, and I know Dave and I are hoping to get into a studio next year and make another record if there's any way that's going to be possible.
That'd be awesome. I've been telling a lot of people this, everything sucks right now, obviously, at the moment, but mark my words, it's obviously going to be a snowball. It has to gather up more. But when this is eventually over, that we will enter the best era of music of all time, I feel.
I sure hope so. I can see it. I can see everyone all of a sudden putting out 12 albums and, and playing everywhere they can possibly play. I had a kind of a misconception about this whole thing. I thought, man, I'm going to sit around and have all this time not traveling. I'm just going to write so much stuff. And it's kind of been the opposite. You just kind of feel like, I don't know.
Well, I think it's because for an artist, and, I'm not in a band, so I could be talking out of my ass, but I'd imagine that an artist does get a lot of inspiration from going on tour, seeing the world and meeting different people and, even playing live and being in that environment. And now this time you almost have to kind of rely on isolation and a static world in order to make that creativity flow.
Yeah, I know. I'm just super glad about the timing, all things considered, that, we made this album last year when everything was, happy-go-lucky, and then, and now it's coming out when everything's, as it is. So it just makes me feel good. Like, oh, something positive. Something's happening. Even though we did it last year, it's coming out now in the middle of all this. It's for me, it was something totally to look forward to and kind of make my day. And I'd like to think it'll do it for other people. I mean, I've got a couple albums, that I pre-ordered or whatever recently, and man, just that little something to look forward to. Like, I pre-ordered the new Blue Oyster Cult that comes out next month, and that's little nuggets like that. Like, oh my God, that's, even if everything sucks, that's going to make my day awesome when that shows up. So if, we can do that too, then that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, we look forward to hearing and seeing a lot more. And
I would bank on it. I'm not good at anything else, so I'm just going to keep doing it until I fall apart.
That's the best way to do it. But thank you so much, Chris. Everybody, we are here with Chris of Painted Doll. Be sure to pick up How to Draw Fire coming out tomorrow, and it'll probably be out by the time this interview airs. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We will see you next time.